Good evening to all of you. It's a great pleasure for me to be at Coimbatore here, especially on a day to set the context to start in a lighter mode. Ramji has selected a day where Trump has arrived in India. 4 days back, in fact, I was invited to speak on not the same topic, something else. Mother Gopal is aware of that, in the Bhaktavaksalam College of Women. So something like this I said, but I started by telling them, you people have in a jocular sense which had a pun inside, but they couldn't understand that pun, but they could get the significance. I said, it's a Bhaktavaksalam College for Women. This date for me with Bhaktavaksalam College for Women is something which I will never forget. It's 1 in 1,000 because it was 20 to 20. It again come after 1,000 years. So it was an audience of 600, 700 girl students and faculty. They didn't understand but what I'm trying to tell you is a fantastic date what Ramji has thought, or incidentally it so happened it fell today. And there is a lot of connect also with that particular topic. Let me first say, how much time incidentally you think, Ramji, 30 minutes, 40 minutes? You need that much time to at least, okay, to soak the audience in somewhat important nuances of this, you need that sort of time. So let me come back to this topic. The first thing what I thought was, I don't want to use any PowerPoint presentation. That was the first decision I took. There are two reasons for that. One is my eyesight has a little bit gone worse because of diabetic retinopathy for the past few years, and I find it very awkward to read from a PowerPoint and then look at the audience. I felt it a bit odd. But there is a silver lining in that disadvantage. You started practicing it to speak from the heart and not from the slide. So as a result, if you are passionate on some topic and you are clear about the thought process, the words just fall into the place. It just comes from the heart and it joined by the ideas from the brain. The two processes work together in making you, give you a very eloquent thought of whatever flow of thoughts you want to give. So that is an advantage in that. I decided not to have the PowerPoint today. Because of the second reason is because of this, the audience would not look at the screen, but they would like to look at me. The audience would like to look at me and see what this guy has got to tell, because it's not from the screen, it's from me which is coming. And that's very important for this presentation. You know why? This is not something about some data or some very nice diagrams. To me, my understanding of this whole subject is it's a fantastic logic. There is a logic behind this 5 trillion idea which has come from the leadership of the nation. The more and more you understand the logic, the more and more you go to the granularity and the structure, not the details, you find a fantastic brain. So I have started unraveling that the structure, not that I have got the answers or solutions. I started unraveling it, and the more I started reading, it was really fabulous. The more you start unraveling the different dimensions. So that's why when Ramji proposed this topic, it fascinated me. But what fascinated me equally was Ramji's ability to combine 3 themes into one theme. You know what he did, which he didn't tell you? $5 trillion economy is one topic, and because of that, companies and basically businesses are, you cannot do it on a linear pathway. You are never going to achieve 5 trillion. It's not about incremental journey towards $5 trillion. It has got to be jump started, disruptive, pole vaulting. That is how it can be. And that is why it is called as a disruptive. So business strategies are going to be disruptive. So that's the second stream. The third stream is precisely what the finance professionals have in store for this. So I want to correct Rajesh to that extent, because it's not about the roadmap towards 5 trillion. I am not an economist. I am not in that league. But certainly I am trying to relate, being an auditors association and being a CMA forum, what is it therein for me? How should I change? That's very important. அது ஏன் அப்படின்னா, if you take this topic today or any topic the current leadership takes today, there are various angles. Someone says, oh, he is good in sloganeering. It's yet another slogan for 2020, so that in 2021 one can jump to another thing. That's another perspective. I am not in that basket. There is another perspective consisting of full of economists. They would talk about what's the current income levels, what is the current GDP, what systemic change has happened, and you switched out to our earlier way of computing national income to a completely new debatable method where there is a credibility issue and there is a huge debate on that. I am not in that league. I am not a part of the economist group. I don't understand that basically. If someone is going to ask me a question, how do you compute the national income, or how do you compute, is the net exports is important for the GDP calculation? What are all the algorithms going into the GDP? I don't know. For me, GDP is finally a figure consisting of these things. Of course, very broadly, you know about consumption route, investment route, and income route, etc. So, I am not an economist. I don't have a political perspective. I don't want to be in the debate with the economist. Nor I want to say this guy or this leadership is sloganeering. I am not a part of this. I am a hardcore finance professional. CA, CMA is all after that. I am a hardcore finance professional. I am interested in working with the business. I am not interested in that so to say, even certifying some statement. I am interested in being a part of the business. See that there is something happens for them to grow fast, and incidentally, once you see things happening around you, the nation, many changes have started happening everywhere, whether it is railways or everywhere. There is a new flavor happening around you, and there is a chance of, in your lifetime, this economy being different. That look at a role where you can position yourself not for a reward, not for any compensation, but can you be an enabler in that? So after January, with my encounter with the railways minister, it so happened I started presenting, summing up the sessions into what need to be done for from a finance professional angle towards this $5 trillion economy. It amazed him so much. He thought that the clarity was so good, and then only I came to know that my clarity was good on that. So then I started galloping my reading, my interest in that subject. It started snowballing now, and then I said, okay, let me be a part of the enabler. Let me try to take this message to several parts of the society to which you belong. It can be the finance professional, or it can be students, or it can be anywhere, but speak more about the connect. So that is the reason why I would like to be on this particular topic, speak on this, but be a professional. What is that logic and how it appeals to you? There is a connect for us. That is all my focus. I am going to start with that. In that process, like the way Ramji has conceived this plan, to demystify this topic, we need to understand it in three streams. I am demystifying not $5 trillion economy. I am demystifying, unblocking the topic what Ramji gave. And what is that? $5 trillion economy is block 1. Disruptive strategies, business strategies is block 2. And 3, what is the role of finance professionals? These 3 only I am integrating. So there is an intersection of all these roads, and that in that center, CA or CMA or any finance professional sits there and has got a glorious role. I am going to throw light on that the way I have understood. Throw light in the sense the way I have understood. I am trying to expose those thought processes. So let me first start with the same sequence. A little bit on this, the brain behind this $5 trillion economy. From where this figure came? From where did it drop from the heaven? Is there any logic about it? After all, we are all professionals, and it's important for us to understand the logic of anything. If it is not logical, you don't accept that. You try to be skeptical about an illogical thing and seek a answer why this logic. I started applying my mind on that in that sense, and then I came to see very clearly that today, yeah, that's okay, that's fine. In fact, if it is open, there's a possibility of stealing it on. So, if you go back into this first block, this theme, today you have got the number $1 trillion economy of the world, the $17 trillion man arriving in Ahmedabad today. He is the $17 trillion. They are number one. Then why this fight? If you look at the current levels, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, India is somewhere in 6th or 7th. Around roughly $2.4 trillion is the economy today. But what is the reason for fight? That is the logic I wanted to understand. So then I saw the number one guy is the man who has, Mr. Trump has come today. The second is Mr. Xi Jinping. The Chinese economy is the second. If you look at the 3rd, 4th, 5 and 6, all your German, Japanese, France, they all come in the next sequence. What happens is, if you hit 5 in 2024, you go to the 3rd position. Still you can't cross China. Maybe you need next generation of leaders after Modi, if at all you achieve, for someone to take you through the journey. But if you are going to hit this bullseye of $5 trillion, what is going to happen to our economies? You will be 3rd economy, biggest economy in the world. Imagine if you are the 3rd biggest economy, you become really a superpower club. So the type of impact you can create around you, how you can play a role in the United Nations, the typical security issues which you are going to assure to the nation, and the role you are going to play in the world is phenomenal. And that is why the leadership has given this $5 trillion. The moment you hit this $5 trillion economy, all these advantages of the superpower is going to reach you. And that is the logic of this $5 trillion. How are you going to reach and all are the next. But that is a vision. The vision is something which business leaders, the vision, mission, strategy, the vision is something where you see on the wall some writing about you, how you want to give leadership for your company, when others don't see that. You see something on the writing side, writing on the wall is clear to you. If you do this way, then you are going this way. Today there is no solution for that, but you work for that. That is all strategy is all about. So you have a vision, you have a goal, then you develop the strategies to reach that. So today the leadership of this country has got a vision that this is what we need to reach. And that is the logic of this $5 trillion. So you need not be paranoid about the political issues around it, the impossibility of measuring it. So many things people may say, skeptical, and it may be even be a butt of a joke. You can do anything about it, but that is this vision. We need to, as professionals, look at that part alone. Let others do their job. We will not get into that. We need not challenge that also. Of course, after all, it's one of the most vibrant democracy where everyone can criticize everything. Doesn't matter. It's okay. But as far as we, the professionals, are concerned, what is this $5 trillion and where is the role for me? So this is where you start demystifying that $5 trillion. So in the first block, how do you take the next step of demystifying it? Where from this 5 is going to come? Or how are you going to reach this 5? So always a big journey, if you make it into the smaller milestones or compartmentalize it, you will understand the steps involved. So the documents which I have gone through, either from Niti Aayog or from listening to other experts, it's very clear that out of $5 trillion, $1 trillion is going to be from agriculture. Another $1 trillion, the manufacturing sector need to go towards that. $3 trillion is for the service sector. Just imagine if the service sector was not there in India, whichever be the government, whether Narasimha Rao's government or subsequent government, from 1991 there is a phenomenal growth of the service sector in this country. So let's again look at it as a pure the issue or pure process. So simply the growth of the service sector has brought this phenomenal change in the country. So to say that in this 5 trillion target, 3 trillion is for the service sector. Now this 3 plus 1, that vis-a-vis what you have today is what is called the gap. That is the target what we need to achieve. So if you look at that, considering little bit of variations in the estimates and also my memory also faltering over that, roughly 0.4 or 0.45 is the current state of the agricultural economy, and 0.5 to 0.6 is the manufacturing sector, and the remaining comes from the service sector. Roughly 2.4 trillion or 2.3 is somewhere is the current position of the Indian economy, which has been achieved ever since the planning started, what is called jocularly as the Hindu rate of growth, and the periods in Indira Gandhi's or prior to that, all the periods including the current level is 2.5 crores. Of course, with a rapid growth in the last 2 decades or so, with the service sector taking a very major role. But what the current leadership wants to achieve is to double that GDP in the next 4 years. So what you took such a long time in achieving, that is maybe 40 years, 50 years, etc., you want to accelerate and you want to achieve this in the next few years, that is 4 or 5 years. Whether it is possible or not, but there is a pressure and the vision has started, the declaration has come. So there is again a debate. They look at the current rate of growth of GDP. Again there is a debate 4.5, 5.1 and 4 years, whether it is possible. And someone says the government itself has not invested in the last budget, all again going back to the control of the fiscal deficit. The roadmap towards this $5 trillion economy has not been given, the investment has not been announced. The intention has been declared, but investments have not been announced. Lot of ifs and buts. So the economists will also say, if you keep 2024 as constant, $5 trillion as constant, the balancing figure of the GDP growth rate we require 11.5% or 10.5%. Only then we will achieve $5 trillion or $5 trillion. It's not possible. So in fact, yesterday I was going through the Kerala economic growth. Kerala is the only state whose GDP growth rate is 11.4%. Really, it was astounding, a new revelation from me. As I told you in the beginning, more and more you start reading and try to understand this animal, a very illogical or logical animal as the case may be. New facts come to your knowledge. So Kerala is a fantastic economy growing to, but only thing is, though a good GDP growth rate, the size of the economy is very less. And hence their contribution to the national role is minimal. What Tamil Nadu can contribute or Maharashtra can be contribute is phenomenal. We too are the largest states. And the rate in growth is fantastic. But someone is achieving 11.5%, so the economists would say unless you have 11.5% growth rate, it is not possible. So all these people are all what they are doing, they are applying a linear mathematics. Do you think that will be in the mind of a very shrewd leader? It's not. So the gap of in agricultural sector 0.55, the manufacturing sector 0.55 or 0.6 or 0.5 for that matter, and the service sector also a phenomenal growth of another $1.5 trillion. The gap will not come by a linear growth rate of GDP or purely by a government investment. That is all not the logic. What is there in the minds of the leadership? It is completely a non-linear pathway. Non-linear is not incremental. It is not a correlation of a base figure of 1. I think Ramji and Rajesh, Madanagopal and friends, we all would be aware of how the Excel based budgeting is done in companies. Last year I sold 5,000 kg or 5,000 vehicles or some 5,000 liters, or some 5,000 units of some product. Next year another 10% based on the demand. So it's all a arithmetic function, that then you backwork your raw material cost, you backwork your selling price, and then you do all that. That is all linear planning. We are not in this game. So this leadership is talking about a non-linear growth. And how that non-linear growth can come, you can see the logic which I am taking you through. And how that non-linear is going to come, there are 3 or 4 levers which will give the advantage. We all know, though many of you may be commerce students like me, irundhalum we have learned something called a mechanical advantage in science, either even up to 11 plus 1 plus 3, I belong to that generation. You read something in science, you are not completely, you are not a novice to science world. You read something called a mechanical advantage, there are some levers give you the mechanical advantage. What the leadership is talking of, levers of growth. So you need levers of growth which will give you the mechanical advantage and will give a skyrocket jump. What is that? If you notice carefully the leadership articulating, number 1 in that is startup economy. What is now happening on an IT related matter. Number 2 is artificial intelligence and the technology disruptions. So this interplay of all these 3 or 4, there can be more levers, but primarily the leadership has started articulating in this. So you will find startup getting a special role, mentioning in the budget speech, and then in ESOPs and the valuation of shares for determining the taxable income of the startups. The finance minister is announcing something. It is all to push up that startup economy. So the moment a startup company is going to come, all the linear thinking will go for a toss. It will all, if few startups, few in the sense, few hundreds of startups are going to play that role, either it can be in agricultural, it can be process, meaning service sector, or it can be manufacturing sector. If these things are going to work and these levers are going to be understood by the industrialist, current or future, I am coming to that point. So if these levers are going to be understood, what is going to happen is a terrific expansion which is non-linear in nature of the economic activity of this country. So what the leadership is looking at is this 2.5 or 6 trillion gap is going to be contributed by those companies which are not indulging in a Excel based annual growth rate. It's all going to be dependent on this sort of artificial intelligence, or it can be in the form of a startup, or it can be in the form of disruptive technologies. These are going to play the real lever like roles. It can also be connected to the agricultural. Is it true? Yes, in agricultural also. There can be a wonderful way. People have started doing all that. If you look at the global summit recently, how the startups are supporting the agricultural productivity, they have all been shared, those gains have all been shared. How the startup world is connecting the agricultural dunya, that has also started in the agricultural world. And if you look at the current budget, what has happened in the recent budget of Nirmala Sitharaman ji, very carefully they have started on some of the reforms in the cropping pattern or in the land utilization, land formation, by which certain infrastructural work can be created by the landowners to get into a value added production. If you can recall that the leasing of land has been, a law is going to come in the agricultural sector. One of the key issues of the agricultural growth being at a very slow rate is that because fragmented holding, very very small, appa, tata, appa, parent, like that, when it comes, the land comes handed over from generation to generation, and the average holding is less than 0.5 acre per person, the benefits of a large scale farming would not be available. And these guys also cannot sell those that easily because of the terrific problems in the documentation, and the traditional land records issue have not been done properly, etc. But one escape route, structural route for these people is they can give it on a lease for a corporate organization or any cooperative body which can combine together and do a value added farming and give back the benefits. This has been contemplated as a structural reform in agriculture towards jump starting a large scale farming which can get into the value added products, increasing the realization per hectare or per acre of land for the ultimate person who is going to give it on lease. These are the things which have started happening even in the agricultural sector. Just a passing reference I am giving on that. But I am going to concentrate on the business and the manufacturing sector and the services sector, where you connect it with these levers, how I am going to do business. What is all about now doing the business on a fresh platform? That is where the second topic starts. That is, I can't be doing business as usual in a conventional environment. Now there are jump starting levers, taking off levers. How do I capitalize that? Put it into a business model, a corporatized business model or any form of firm, business firm, which can work in a service sector or which can work in a manufacturing sector and create that sort of revenue what this current leadership is talking of. And hence, because of this, new business models, new way of carrying on business, hitherto not heard of from the traditional industrialists of the country, who all have brought in 40-50 years to the $2.4 trillion. The remaining 2.6 will not come from the same crop. Completely a new generation with a thought process of capitalizing the artificial intelligence, capitalizing the disruptive technologies. They are going to take the new floor or the new platform, and that is going to happen. And when that happens from people who would not have a history, a commerce history, that this is what I have got my balance sheet and this is how I am going to raise money from my internal sources and all that, but what all I have got is only my brain. So there will be really a shock for even the lending sector, how to assess the capital needs of such units, and how these companies basically with these ideas are going to raise the funds required for this new disruptive strategies which need to serve in the market. Adila, I am going to give you 2 or 3 examples. How is that going to happen? I will give you a narrative. Very recently, I have met some guys. Just listen to me, the conversation which I had with him, with those guys, and just see how what all I am saying is going to emerge, let's say in a service sector. So this guy was one of the top class executive in a emerging top class executive in a world class electronics based organization, and he resigned from that 3-4 years back. So it's a distant relative of mine through my wife's side, and because of the good regards, fortunately I enjoy in that family. These sons, this guy's parents started asking me, Raman, this fellow is doing all these things, he has kicked a very nice job. Just see how the new business environment is coming. He was in a valley, 3-4 years he is going and coming somewhere. We don't understand what this guy is doing. He was having getting a pay packet of 1 lakh per annum or 1.5 lakhs per annum in this company. He was visiting every month or once in 3 months he was going to Europe and coming back. My generation parents talking only those things where they see their son becoming a top class executive. That's what even including me, our generation spoke about. So, but these parents, what is this Raman? Why? What? Can you just have a chat with him and find out what is he doing? Then I pulled him from somewhere there. Hey, come, let's talk. Some function, social function. I will give the sum up of that, not the complete narrative. This guy, what is he doing? He is bringing in artificial intelligence into, he and his few friends, they are building up an artificial intelligence model in a specialized field in a domain called oncology. Oncology, you all know, cancer. Cancer cure is oncology. There is artificial intelligence, there is oncology, and this fellow is an electronics engineer. You know, you are electronic engineer, what is the link with oncology for you and all that? Since I happen to be the cost auditor of a chain of hospitals, I knew something I knew about it. So then I started asking, no, uncle, it's not that way. Kindly just listen what looking. You have heard of the research for the drugs and pharma? Yeah, somewhat I know. So he started explaining to me in 3 phases how these things happen. So there is a research in a disease. And then he says, people find out and isolate a virus or a strain or a bacteria which causes this problem, and then they will say there is an issue. This is the virus causing that. Then they will also come upon, if I give this nutrition, this protein or this carbohydrate or this molecules containing coming from this, it will act on, supposed to act, there's a hypothesis, it will act on these viruses, and then it is supposed to cure this, and later on it is supposed to mitigate the impact or neutralize the cancer cells, a relief comes. So now it's an idea. But how this idea gets perfected? Mind you, in a typical FDA illama, we don't accept any drugs. That Americans or the $17 trillion economy is the ultimate seal of approval on the drugs. And how do they do it? 7, 8, 9 years, 10 years, keep on trial. So once this idea comes, someone comes up with a research process. You keep on trying how these molecules and different patterns and different combinations work on that particular virus. Year 1, year 3, year 4, year 5, year 6. All these years spending, revenue irka? No. So the revenue model is not there. There is an expense outflow model. I keep on researching on that. At the end of 5th or 6th year, there is something which is emerging out of this. So let me come up with a product which is likely to have a formulation which is likely to have a cure. But you can't put it on the human beings immediately. There is a trial with the animals, animal trials, despite all the SPCA and all that, there is specifically an effort is done. And after the SPCA trials, a select group of human beings, it's done. And finally, after test looking for the side effects, it becomes a drug. So he is dividing it into the 3 phases: initial ideation, and then there is a phase of a hypothesis of experimenting the impact of standard proteins, carbohydrates and various minerals on this, and then the 3rd phase of the clinical trials and human trials, animal trials and human trials. Now this guy, my relative, says, uncle, I am in the 2nd space. What are you doing in the 2nd space? This is the work of the lab. So here he says, using the lot of data which has been published already, because in US I believe transparency is of the highest order in all this. So all the test done, results, every damn data needs to be published. So using this information, these guys build an algorithm. So they build an algorithm, or the Python tables, or what is all, they all call this as a set of the artificial intelligence. They do all this, and now there is an idea for someone, and they are saying these are all the nutrients. It is given to these guys. They crash this 5-year cycle test, the 2nd phase, to just 1 year. So what is happening is, you get this point, a 7-year life cycle drug development can come down to less than 3 years, because some business model has suddenly emerged. Somewhere someone in the countries in India is now offering a business model which compresses this 5 years of trial and testing. Instead of doing, actually they use algorithms, artificial intelligence, to come up with, yes, this can go to the human clinical trial and animal trial fast. So this is a very big support for the drug companies. Then I asked him, Are Baba, you are doing something, but don't you think Israelis are much better than you? You are better IQ. Israelis have a higher IQ than you. They are known for drugs. Why I am telling all these things? Because I am asking him as a mentor. His parents have asked me to question him, I am asking him. Then Japan is fast on to anything on Japan. It is intelligence based manufacturing or doing anything. Japan is equal layer on the same platform. He said, uncle, you are right. But fortunately, our cost, we are more cost effective in that. Like the way satellite launching has happened. So then I asked him, fine, okay, you are going on the right direction. But how you people can do all these things? Because in a typical drug development, there is something called in the medical science comorbid conditions. This I am dropping this word because of my association as a cost auditor with some hospitals. So when comorbid conditions come, a person who is going for an oncology treatment, if he is having a diabetics problem also, it gets complicated. If he has a heart problem, second additional complication. If he has some nervous disorder, further additional complication. So when the complication 1, 2, 3, 4 acting on the fundamental issue becomes a comorbid condition. So how the comorbid condition can really destabilize your research? So he knew the answer already because he knew that I am going to get into that. So he changed the word from a comorbid and used different variables, how the algorithm they are creating, and he says how this mechanism is providing for that. Arey Baba, you are so, I thought you are a simple electronics engineer. Then he said, uncle, I thought you are only a cost accountant, you are only a chartered accountant. When you can ask me so many questions, how I can also answer? So and then finally I came to the point. So this is how a typical case, the final point I will take you in the next block. So this is how a particular space where the processes of clinical trial, some company would have been doing this. Suddenly a disruptive approach comes using artificial intelligence as a lever. Now you have to connect how these levers get connected with new business models. They come in place and erupt a new company, a startup for which you don't have a TVS background, you don't have a Mahindra background, you don't have an Aditya Birla background, you don't have that background, but you have a background of thinking and intelligence. So this is how he is developing this business model, and I was amazed. So if this is going to be one of the few hundreds of startups which can redefine the economy, there will be a tremendous upshoot in the service income. May not be in the third year, fourth year, but a point will come where he is going to take off. So this is keep one as a service example. Recently I was involved with another company where the disrupting technology, this is one example of I gave you, was on artificial intelligence. The other one I am sure you may be knowing about the Google's effort of connecting the diabetes with heart attack, or sorry, eyesight with heart attack. You know that, no? So how the test in the eyesight, the test results of the conditions of the retina, I know that because I undergo this test only once in 3 months at least. So the retinal test analysis done through the OCT testing mechanism, it captures the strength of the blood vessels of that retina, which are supposed to be thinner than your hair, that carries blood. So that condition is used by using an artificial intelligence. The model can tell using that test whether this guy is going to get heart attack or some major cardiac issue in what period. So this is how Google has connected an eye disease with a heart attack. This is one interesting example I have on artificial intelligence. Now I am coming to the disruptive technology. This is a company which is making die for aluminum die casting. There are many dies they are making. One important segment of their focus is aluminum die casting. So they suddenly told me one day, which is 2-3 months back, Mr. Raman, we have got something called a smart die. And then a smart die, whether die can think. Yeah, yes, die can think. They are answering me, you have got it correct, die can think. What is that thinking process, I am asking them. So they are telling these dies are mounted on the die casting machine. That process, yes, I am aware of that. So typically, a typical die casting operations can have issues on the operational shop floor when the die temperature varies. That is the cooling system of the die. When it is malfunctioning, the temperature variation happens and it is leading, it can prone to component rejections later. It can have quality problems and things like that. Or the die sits on connecting pins. So the pins can vibrate, and pin breakage can cause even a die damage or a component damage. So these guys have developed the technology and patented it, manufacturing technology, patented the technology of embedding sensors into the die surface. So these sensors have been embedded into the die surface. So every shot the die temperature variation is recorded, something like the retina issue. So when there is a pattern where the temperature is bound to change, and they build an algorithm, you need to generate a signal. It is connected to the cloud. So from the die, an alert will go to the cloud, and from the cloud it will go to the operator. Look, you are now going to get a rejection. So then narrow-minded paranga. So the rejection is controlled in stop the die and set right the cooling system. Then the rejection will not be there at all. I got a chill on the back of the spine. The best standard costing system, what it is expected to do, which is cost accountants we are supposed to specialize. There will be a material variance based on the actual production. The material variance at the end of a month or a 15 days, if you are very smart, will throw out a consumption variance which will tell you for this production, this should have been the standard consumption. This is the actual consumption. The quantity has gone up by high, so much, by 5% or 10% due to rejections. You show that report to the production head. This is called attention directing mechanism. This is one standard lines in the cost accounting textbook. What is the role of cost accounting? So you are doing an attention directing mechanism. So after looking at the report, the production man is supposed to analyze how I can control the variance and how I can improve my rejection, I bring it down, and then tell back this variance we have noticed, these are the root causes, we have taken action, we have removed. In one step, this whole costing concept of a variance analysis in a typical aluminium die casting has been dumped into a dustbin. Connect between a manufacturing technology and cost accounting, which specializing. CMAs, at least like me, are specializing. So this die technology, which is a disruptive manufacturing technology, will change the rule of the game. The moment I have this mechanism, I use the cloud computing and send an alert message. Adiliyam levels. After 10 messages, if the operator doesn't correct the die temperature by adjusting the cooling mechanism, the alert will start going to the production manager. This was the story. So I went along with them to see how their clients, as a cost auditor, mind you, I didn't go to the ledger and sat with the cost accountant. Along with this marketing man, I go to the client customers to understand, as a cost auditor, how they are receiving this particular information, is their probable vendors or customers, how they want to look at this development, so that really the die takes off. One OEM company kekkaram parunga, sir, these days so many SMS come to me in my mobile. As an operator, when I am having my mobile even in my pocket, even if I have a differentiated ringtone, I may choose to not bother about that.
Yes, sir.
What is the point in sending an SMS? So what do we do then? He says, don't connect this PDCA cycle, don't keep it open. The cloud should send back the message to the machine itself. The machine learning ML, the machine learning should take place, automatically correct the die and cooling system. It should be completing by itself and avoid variance. These are all the disruptive technologies which are coming, which was not a part of the earlier culture. If you can master it, they have patented it. Adanala, the more and more you invent and patents, the number of patents available per individual in Israel is the highest. The more and more you are going to patent, the more and more you are going to be innovative and come out with new models and build it into a startup, build it into an artificial intelligence, build it into a new development, and build a business model around it. the takeoff is going to be vertical. So that is how the leadership has thought of not a linear way of growing from 2.5 trillion to 5. It's all because of this using these levers and developing new business models, completely delinking with your traditional industrial houses. It will not be the Birlas and Tatas of the world in future. They will be there, but coexisting with there will be the brains of the Indian economy, which will be filling this 2.65. This is how the whole growth of the agricultural, the service sector and the manufacturing sector is built on the disruptive approaches of technologies and thought processes, and hence the new business strategies will be completely disruptive of the earlier environment, and it will create new pathways. Sorry, $5 trillion and the disruptive technologies link I have understood. But where is the role for me? So I come to the last part of my connecting link. The finance professionals, how they are connected. So I go back to my earlier story of that friend of mine. So first 3-4 years you are going to keep on only spending. Income kenaba panna pora. How are you going to meet the company's expenses? You need resources for that. So then he says, uncle, there is venture capital, so much of ideas are there. But fine, venture capital is there, but how are you going to value the thought? So there is a valuation issue coming here. What is it you are telling, uncle? So this is going to be a new business model. There is no gross assets. There is on the balance sheet platform currently it is zero. It is only a futuristic prospect. So there is going to be a zero asset base. Only your good ideas, some computers, some Harvard business journals எல்லாம் வாங்கி வச்சிருக்காங்க. ரெண்டு இதான் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்காங்க. But where is the connect? How are you going to create assets? So there is unless a good valuation takes place, you won't get funding support. Yeah, you are right, uncle. We are doing something on this. We are trying to understand the future streams of the revenue. Okay, future streams of the revenue will be the basis of valuation. But how are you going to tie up with the venture capital if they are going to put a very high fee in terms of returns? The entire benefit of your research will be taken away by them. So where is the finance planning for this new business model? You need to bring in innovative finance thinking and ensure the rewards for you. Otherwise, for a $5 trillion economy, it will all be there. Aதாவது investment is going to be there, funds will FDI may flow, and investment may take place, consumption may take place, consumption of services, someone else is going to buy. That is the overseas drug firm will buy the service of this firm, that will go into the computation of the GDP. Let's say like this, so many companies will buy the Indian service and the GDP grows up. But who is going to get the benefit? Someone else who is funding. So you need a financial planning which will protect you, connect the disruptive business strategy to a valuation model so that the streams of income and expenditure are matched perfectly and the entrepreneurship and the brain is rewarded. Everything was fine. No, this is right, uncle. This is where, please tell us how to go about. We need to connect the strategy and we need to connect. We understand all these things, but this last part, yes, we are not sure. Can you help us? And I am also not sure. I need to understand what these new skills are, how to predict that income, how to do this valuation. We need to get into that. So the first block of immense opportunity for the finance professional is what is the method of valuing the business which is going to be having a disruptive strategy using these tools of artificial intelligence, and where the future streams of revenue are extremely unpredictable. So you need to bring in risk management along with this. So this is where after some time you may also have to, I'll come to Ramji's angle also here, you need to connect with this IFRS, new forms of reporting, because this may be a funding from abroad. So I can't be doing the Indian, I may be doing Ind AS, but okay, then there may be certain adjustments also required. But adu matrum illa inga. Where is the game change going to happen? for the finance professionals is that, you recall Ramji's presentation in the beginning, we have signed the UN Charter for Sustainable Development Goals. There are 17 goals. Every country, 150 and odd countries have signed. They have to institutionalize mechanism of measuring and monitoring the implementation of the sustainable goals, how India is progressing. So, if I am, for example, connecting with this oncology in the same example, oncology is going to benefit medically the poor. So one of the goals is how to bring in this relief. The medical relief is one of the goal. So I can connect it with that. But what will happen is, it is not purely a funding of venture capital by some overseas firm in Europe or Singapore or in US. They will connect it. They, not the Indian venture capital source. Please remember, because India cannot get all its funds from the national resources now. It's going to be huge amount is going to be needed, and that investment also will be getting into incidentally the GDP calculation. So this funding, let's say it's going to come from US or it's going to come from Europe, but let's say if it's going to come from Europe, the first thing they will do is, your IFRS is fine, India is compliant with IFRS, but can I look at the integrated report of your company, because in Europe integrated reporting has been made mandatory. So what is that integrated reporting? It's a new form of corporate reporting where you don't report only the financial bottom line, but you go to a triple bottom line. I need to tell, because of my business, how it has, while giving a good profitability, connected to the UN sustainable goals. How my company, by working for this profit generation and returns to the GDP, that is GDP calculation is fine, but how it is connected to the India sustainable development goals where it has signed and target is there, prove it. And incidentally, I am on the right side of a green. So green economy will get connected in that manufacturing. So can you prove that the investments which you require for the green dye or whatever you are saying, how far it is going to improve the green economy of India? If you don't do that, we can't give you the fund. So all the funds required for the $2.5 trillion are not available in the country. You are going to externally depend on the funding agencies. But they will not be happy only with IFRS. They will insist on a new form of corporate reporting where it connects the sustainability reporting with the financial reporting, and hence the finance professionals, either as accounts preparing inside the company or not of this old economy of 2.4. They won't see this. They are sitting happily in the $2.4 trillion. I am talking of the disruptive business strategies of 2.6. So if you are helping like a startup, what I am telling, which has to get funds from Europe, I not only need to know the IFRS, I also know how I can connect this with the sustainable development goals, and hence am I skilled in integrated reporting. If I don't have that and then complain enough business is not there for practicing chartered accountants because it is in Coimbatore, only these industries are there, it's no use. Opportunities are there immense, $2.5 trillion economy, immense opportunities for finance professionals. But I need to connect the dots. The third, extremely important for my management accounting community. In this company, which is going to incur for the first 3-4 years only expenses. After that, the income is going to come. How can I match the income of the 1, 2, 3 with the revenue of year 4, 5, 6? Business model, cost accounting standards, that year expenses is that year, na? That entire framework of cost and management accounting, what we have learnt right from our childhood, in the sense, childhood means BCom days, is all a stable business. For manufacturing, license, machinery I purchase, I get loan from ICICI Limited, now bank. I have a debt equity ratio of 1:2. I return my funds. I look at my annual projections. That sort of standard factory environment, including my cost accounting. But now there is completely a different life cycle or a technology based business model whose first 3 years or 4 years only expenses, later on all the years are income. So basically my financial accounting will not tell me about the business performance in this. It will tell you whether you are liquid. At the end of the year you are liquid and how you are going to report to the shareholders. It is not about the real performance. But the true cost and management accounting for this business model of disruptive artificial intelligence base is yet to emerge. At the NNA we don't know what is that cost and management accounting. We don't know. So that framework of cost and management accounting, adilende if we evolve and tell the national leadership, this is the new cost and management accounting framework which is required for an economy of $5 trillion, and then prove it, this is how it is deployed in startup, the esteem value of the professional go up like anything. And this is what the national leadership wants you to do instead of running after cost audits, which is all based on the price control regime. And the 2.4 liye or chinna corner adu. So there is complete mismatch, and this is where as a finance professionals, either as a valuation even before the funding starts or after the funding for reporting the financials connecting with the sustainable performance of the $2.6 trillion or monitoring the performance of the $2.6 trillion economy in terms of what is the true management accounting framework required. In all these three blocks is the phenomenal challenge which is now available for the financial professionals. Do we have the answer for that? Illa. We don't have the answers now. It has to evolve. Because basically the answers will come only when there is a business need comes. That is true, nothing wrong in that. When the business need comes, the solution will follow. But only thing is we need to sense that writing on the wall. The biggest difference is we need to see the vision on the wall that this is what is going to happen and this is how the economy is moving. And if we the financial professionals align ourselves by reaching out to the mass, this is the impact of the $5 trillion economy, tell the industry of the old and the new, somehow connect with the new generation entrepreneurs, not go and again talk about this only to Tatas and Birlas and Mahindras or the Reddys, no, not the existing ones. We need to find out about the new association which is emerged of the IT entrepreneurs or startups association. We need to establish contact with them, evolve the new skills and competencies and skills which are required, evolve the new tools which are required, which may be initially hybrid, it may be nebulous. You may have to perfect it. After all, only now we have reached the IFRS after so many years of Luco Pacioli's invention. So over a period of time, 10-15 years, perfect this also and then say this is what is relevant for the new startup. In this way, the role what financial professionals are going to do or are expected to do to achieve this $5 trillion economy is phenomenal and the opportunities are going to be boundless. But only thing is, are we, don't get into even competencies, are we attitude wise, are we in terms of intention, have we understood the depth, the ghera, the depth of these changes which are coming, and should we not be immediately pouncing on our feet to gear towards that? That is the biggest attitudinal challenge itself for us. If we come out of the current slumber and not gear ourselves into this, we will become the Rip Van Winkle. Someone else will come and occupy the space. The someone else, yaru அப்படின்னாக்க, the same financial professionals who are in Australia, who are in Europe, who are in UK, which is basically organizations like SEMA, or the bodies in US, they are all working in this direction, and they will come through the big four or big five. They will walk away with these new ideas. So we need to wake up and we need to understand this opportunity and capture this impact of all this as financial professionals, so that we bring all these three blocks together, which is the $5 trillion economy challenges for us in various segments, how it is going to cause disruption in the corporate and the business life and agricultural life, and how do we improve our competencies and tools and techniques to help them achieve these goals of $5 trillion. dollar. If all these three don't come together, then we will be failing in our duty as someone who can be a part of the team leading this nation. I wish that sort of situation doesn't come, and we all race together as a professional group in achieving the target which has been given by the leadership, devoid of all the political arguments which happen around that. Let us not get into that. For us, whichever be the leader, if he announcing this, we have a role and we need to fulfill that. Thank you.